Property located on Jones Drive in land lots 52 and the 7th District. The property consists of 87.96 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a conservation subdivision, District 3, presented by Faith Akuta, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County.
Good evening.
The property before you is for property located on Jones Drive in land lot 52 of the 7th District. The property is currently zoned RA, residential agricultural, and it has a future land use designation of rural residential. Here on the screen, we have a current zoning map of the property with the property outlined in green. And here's an area of the same property, also outlined in green. Lastly, we have the future land use designation map of the property outlined in green. Rural residential is the future land use designation. The Conservation Subdivision Code is intended to preserve green space in residential zone districts by promoting environmentally sensitive land use. In these subdivisions, at least 40% of the land is reserved as undisturbed open space with homes clustered on the remaining property. Development standards for conservation subdivisions allow for lots to be a minimum of 10,890 square feet on sewer and 32,670 square feet on septic. Conservation subdivisions differ from the typical conventional subdivisions in which all or nearly all of the tract is divided into house lots and streets. Conventional subdivisions require fewer green spaces. With conservation subdivisions, applicants are required to submit a yield plan along with the site plan. The yield plan is centered around a conventional subdivision design plan in which the applicant will maximize the number of lots within a tract of land, with the intent to yield the highest number of lots possible. The conservation plan requires preservation of natural resources and land and provides a wide landscape buffer around the perimeter of the development. The conservation plan can help protect natural green space and is less environmentally destructive than a subdivision. A conservation subdivision allows the development to have the same density as a traditional subdivision with smaller lot dimensions. Having smaller lot dimensions allows for increased green space and organic orientation of the subdivision layout. This is the survey of the site provided by the applicant. Here on the screen, we have a yield plan. And this is the same site with the conservation layout. The applicant is proposing 49 lots at 22,000 square feet. Conservation subdivisions do not indicate a minimum heated square footage. However, the RA zone district allows a minimum of 1,500 square feet heated for home size. Here we have a few comments from additional county departments. And with that, staff is recommending approval of this conditional use with 6 conditions. And I'll be happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you. Does the board have questions for staff? Mr. Richard?
Yes. Is this property served by public sewer?
Yes, it's served by public sewer.
Okay, and I believe that within this tract there is one home there now that was part of the overall property, and I understand that someone has recently bought that property, and that they are aware that there's the possibility of a subdivision.
Yes. So the home that's still that you can see on the screen, they do have plans to keep it with the potential of the conservation subdivision.
That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Any further questions for staff? Okay. If not, Will the applicant come forward? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Palmer with Falcon Design Consultants. We're the engineer for the project, 235 Corporate Center Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia. So just not going to take a ton of your time. We've worked with staff for many months on this project. When the project originally came in, it was being requested similar to the Simeon Place subdivision as an R2 subdivision with 122 lots. We have met with staff, listened to their advice, and so what you see on here is what we're actually going for now. It's no longer 122 lots. It's 49 lots, which is quite a big difference. A couple key things I did want to point out. Again, the staff did a great job. Your conservation subdivision ordinance requires you to have 40% of open space. This one has about 60% of open space. There are 49 lots on 87.96 acres. Your conservation subdivision ordinance allows a lot size of 10,890 square feet. This is 22,000 square feet, double the size that would be allowed under a typical conservation subdivision for the lot sizes. And what we did on the concept plan, there's a subdivision on the south. You can kind of see the houses on the picture, and it kind of comes around on the left-hand side of the page as well. South will be on the bottom. The other side, the left-hand side, there's a subdivision there as well. We purposefully pushed a lot of the units further away from them, and that's one of the things about a conservation subdivision that is so great. It allows you to have bigger buffers, more open space. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of hit some of those high points, but again, your staff did a great job, and be glad to answer any questions, and want to reserve the rest of my time for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the board have questions for the applicant?
What's the planned price point for the home?
Not right now.
Ms. Walker?
Oh, I'm sorry. What's the planned price points for the homes?
So I've talked to the developer, and he thinks that the homes are probably going to be 450, 500, and even higher on the houses.
Okay. Any additional questions?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Randolph?
Is that, near lot 3635, is that the end of that road? Is there a cul-de-sac there?
So that's an existing road. It's a
Okay.
dirt road. It's going to be paved and brought up to current county standards, and there's a cul-de-sac, and the dirt road can continue going past that.
So there's a dirt road past that, okay.
Yep.
So it's not a throughway?
It just dead ends down there at the end.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Mr. Richard?
Just one question, either for the applicant or staff. Would this proposed road, would it be curb and gutter, or could it be a ditch section with open ditches?
It is planned to be curb and gutter, and that's what the current code requires. I do think a ditch section would be a nice thing to add to your code to allow stuff like that for conservation areas, but it'll be curb and gutter.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional? Yes, Ms.
Will there be sidewalks?
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, we have 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? I don't see anyone coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Hey, good evening,
Good evening.
Chairman and board members.
Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name's Michael Seal. My address is 362 Harper Road, McDonough. My property backs up to the land that's being prescribed here. So looking at the picture there, about where lots 16, 15, and 17 are, back up to my property.
Okay.
My questions, I've got, I guess, several that our community has raised. One of the questions is, with this proposed conservative land use, is there any chance of this being rezoned as anything other than this conservatorship? So will this 60% green space be forever? The next question is, and I'll just go through the list here, and then we can get the answers here.
Sir, let me-
So one question I have is, for the land, the homes that are being built, is there anything that would prevent these houses from being resold or acquired by a developer to be sold as rental properties? Is there any type of HOA or covenants associated with this development that would help with any future development that's going on within that area? Another question is, could we see an increase in the buffer size of the space between the properties, increase from 50 feet to 75 feet? And in addressing the open field or green spaces, my question would be, the way this layout is, currently below lots 47, 48, 49, that's open field. And we're talking about taking down acres and acres of trees to build houses. And if we're looking at conserving space for wildlife, it would seem logical to me to keep the open space contiguous with the land that's already zoned as residential agricultural, so that there's more space for the wildlife, instead of leaving an open space between the subdivisions, which, I mean, they're already in a subdivision. This would just be adding on to the back of their property. So when you're looking at the map, I mean, if you basically flip-flop this to put all the houses on the bottom side and leave the green space up here where there's already agricultural, I think that would be better for the environment and our wildlife. I see deer coming down that hill all the time from where these houses are going to be built. Looking at the number of houses that are being built, you're putting a house every half acre. The houses that are on Jones Road and Harper Road that are adjacent to that are mostly on acre plus lots. My house is on 7 acres, but the homes that are up closer to where the road's coming in, these are all acre lots. Another question was about the road that's being built. There's houses that are in close proximity to where the existing road is. Right now it's a narrow dirt road. It's almost one lane. And extending that road access is going to take property from homeowners on likely both sides of the entrance coming into this neighborhood. We didn't see in the proposal what type of houses these would be. I know that the minimum is 1,500 square feet, but what size is planned for these homes as far as square footage goes? And what will be the construction of the homes? Is there any requirements for brick siding, wood siding versus vinyl siding? Will the garages be front facing or on the side? And what type of foundation will these homes be? Will they be basement lots? Will they be on concrete pads? That type of thing. The question about sidewalks was answered. The widening of the road, I've asked that question. And what type of traffic study has been done to determine the impact to the road? There's only one entrance coming in and out of this neighborhood that puts several cars on the existing Harper Road coming out on the major highway 20. There's a floodplain on the north side where the green line is up there. There's a floodplain back in there. Has there been any floodplain and erosion control to address any development that might occur there? And will there be any impact to the current ponds? I know that on Mr. Jones' place, there's a big pond back there. There's a pond next to my property that the Patricks own. What would be the impact of these existing ponds with the erosion and things that could occur? I actually have a stream that runs through my back property or through the middle of my property. And certainly would not want any erosion coming into that. And with that, I don't think I have any further questions. I've got several members of the community that are here. I don't know if anybody else wants to come up and speak.
Okay.
Any questions for me before I yield the floor?
No, sir. Please state your name and address for the record, and we have 4 minutes remaining for the two of you.
My name is Deborah Davis. I live at 498 Harper Road. He was addressing the flood plain and erosion that being addressed, because we feel like that when some of the trees are knocked down to build these properties, there's a pond back there that services cattle. So we want to make sure that a study has been done on the impact of that pond. Also, we understand that there's construction going on all over the place. We are not against construction of housing. We just want to make sure that our environment of the people who are already there is thought about and dealt with in a manner so that we're involved in anything that is planned around us. And I know that Paul, okay, he did say that he worked with the planning committee to get everything in accordance with the code. But there was a neglect in talking with the people in the community to involve us in this so that we didn't end up in disagreements. So I would like to reiterate that, we're not against construction. We just want to preserve our area. Everything, this picture here, everything below the road, that looks like trees and everything below that. That is not trees, that's open field. The trees start just a little bit past where they're planning on building 40 and 39, 38, those. Everything north of that road is all trees. And Mr. Jones's pond is right to the right of this property. And like I say, it services cattle. And, we want to make sure that that is preserved. We would prefer less houses than the 49. And like we said, we would be interested in seeing if they could do a 75-foot buffer instead of the 50. And I do believe this lady here, she lives in the house that's right there on that property. So I'll yield the rest of the time to her.
Thank you. My name is Nancy DeLeon. I live at 580 Jones Drive, and my husband and I recently purchased this property, and we are currently residing in the property. When we first purchased the property, we were told that there was going to be a development, and as my neighbor indicated, we're not opposed to the building, but I was led to believe that it was one home per 2 acres, and that is one of the stipulations as to why I bought the property. So again, we are concerned about the more than allotted houses in the area. We're not opposed to the expansion, but one of the things I did look up was the FLUM originally planned by the county, Henry County, and it did indicate low density. This is now looking like high density, which brings in quite a few concerns to our community, not just traffic, but safety in regard to that road. Is it wide enough? Will it have parking on that road? What about the safety of the neighborhood? And yes, that price point for that housing will affect the value of all of our homes. So we would like to be considered in some of these decisions, and we ask for your consideration as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff?
I have looked into this property, several times over the years, and I remember that several years ago, there was a proposal that would be developed for the entire tract, and I believe the request at that time was for an R2 zoning, and there was quite a bit of concern from the community, and I think as a result that request was withdrawn. I have some suggestions that may help the proposal, and I guess I'd like to read these as what would be conditions, for any motion, if that's all right.
That'll be fine.
All right. The maximum number of lots for the conservation subdivision would be 49 lots only. All lots would be 22,000 square feet minimum lot size. The subdivision layout plan should be adjusted to provide a 100-foot landscape buffer zone around all four sides of the property, that is north, south, east, and west. At a minimum, the 100-foot buffer zone, which would be along the west and south sections, shall have evergreen trees planted as needed to fill in any gaps. And these trees would be separated no more than 20 feet and 6 feet high at the time of planting. The minimum house size would be 2,800 square feet heated space. And the detention pond, as shown on the plan, would have to have a security fence, and it would be buffered by evergreen trees 8 feet apart.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Richard.
Mr. Brown, staff would also like to add 2 additional conditions.
Okay.
Number 1, an HOA shall be required. Covenants shall be recorded, which mandate that control of the HOA shall be transferred to the homeowners. So the homeowners immediately upon the sale of 70% of the completed homes. And a copy of the recorded covenant shall be provided to the Building and Plan Review Department before the final plat is approved. And an additional condition that the subdivision shall be developed as an owner-occupied community. Covenant shall be recorded, which mandate no more than 15% of the homes may be rented or leased purchased at any one time. A copy of the recorded covenant shall be provided to Building and Plan Review Department before the final plat is approved. And this is because the intent of this subdivision is for owner occupation, and we want to make sure that that intent is met. We don't want a big builder to come in and just buy them for rentals. So we like to add those 2 conditions along with Mr. Richards.
Okay.
Okay, those are the 6 items that are proposed in the staff report, and I support that in addition to the ones that I just read to the board.
Okay, sounds great.
And we have all those recorded.
Okay, great. That was the big question. Have we recorded these? Okay. All right. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff?
Yes. The way it is currently zoned, how many houses could they have on the property if we didn't approve this?
So it's currently zoned RA residential agricultural, so that's the minimum of 1 acre lots.
And how many acres are there?
87.
Okay.
They
Thank
have
you.
87.96 plus or minus acres.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, if not, we may come.
just have one
Yes, I'm
question.
sorry, Ms. Walker.
No, that's all right. I was just wondering, did they have any meetings with the community for any kind of community input?
Let's call the applicant forward and ask that question.
So no, ma'am, we did not have any meetings with the extra community, just with staff and commission.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions for the applicant or staff? Okay. Before we call a case, I'd like to emphasize that the board is not, in most cases, is not prepared to answer questions that someone opposing may or may not have. Due to the time span, we may or may not be able to answer those questions. These questions, in most cases, can be answered through planning and zoning. Okay. So, being that said, let's call the case, please.
CU 2407 Jones Drive, Henry 80 Properties LLC of McDonough, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located on Jones Drive in land lots 52 and of the 7th District. The property consists of 87.96 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a conservation subdivision. District 3, presenter Faith Akuda, Planner 1.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the request with the 6 items that are included in the staff report, which were just read, and in addition, the conditions that I also read to the board.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Ms. Walker. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Call the next case, please.
COMPAM 2402 0 Rocky Creek Road LLC of Wilmington, DE requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located south of Highway 20 West, east of Rocky Creek Road in land lots 211, 238, and 243 of the 6th District. The property consists of 148.199 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density suburban to office institutional, District 1, presenter Kenta Lanham, Planner 3. And this is an associated case, RZ 2407, 0 Rocky Creek Road, LLC of Wilmington, DE requests a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to OI, office institutional, for property located south of Highway 20 West, east of Rocky Creek Road in land lots 211, 238, and 243 of the 6th District. The property consists of 148.199 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a data center. District 1, presenter Kenta Lanham, Planner 3.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, pillars of the community.
Good evening.
The item before you is for property located south of Highway 20 West and east of Rocky Creek Road, consisting of 148 plus or minus acres. Current zoning is RA, residential agricultural, with a future land use map designation of low-density suburban. The 2 requests before you is to amend the future land use map designation as well as subsequent rezoning. This is the site plan of the development with Highway 20 shown on the right and Rocky Creek on the top. Here are some comments that we've received from various departments, including the Henry County Water and Sewage Authority, Department of Transportation, and Public Safety. This proposed development is of a scale that meets the threshold of a DRI, Development of Regional Impact. This project has completed that process. There's a state review process which invites input from neighboring communities and municipalities to discuss the impact predominantly regarding traffic for these developments of this size. With that process, an extensive traffic impact study is conducted and reviewed, and at the conclusion of that DRI process, a notice of decision is provided, which includes a list of required road improvements necessary to support the development. Those project-related improvements specified by the notice of decision are required at the time of permitting per Chapter 8 of the ULDC. With that, the applicant is requesting to amend the future land use map designation from low-density suburban to office institutional. The property is designated within the rural communities development and infrastructure strategy area. That request for office institutional designation, specifically within the rural community character area, is permitted, rather is appropriate, I should say, if master planned with vegetative buffers along public roadways and to protect the rural character of the area. That is detailed in that kind of yellow section there. Again, appropriate if master planned and following conditions are met. In addition, the applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from RA residential agricultural to OI office institutional for the purpose of that data center with administrative block and subsequent substation. The property is located within the limited development area of a watershed protection area and is required to comply with those development standards located in section 3.04.00 of the ULDC. With it being used as a data center, rather proposed as a data center, I should say, that the impact on the community is subsequently less than what compared to a single-family residential subdivision, particularly as it relates to traffic impact and the school system. Obviously, being used as a data center would have no impact on the school system, no increase in the number of students. And in regards to traffic, it is really the in and out traffic of those that, the limited individuals that would work at the actual substation, the data center each and every day, compared to a residential subdivision where we would have residents coming in and out constantly throughout the day. Once again, here is that site plan for that proposed development. With all this being said, staff is recommending approval of the applicant's comprehensive plan amendment request, COP Amendment 2402, to amend the future land use map designation from low-density suburban to office institutional, as well as recommendation of approval of the applicant's request, RZ 2407, to rezone the subject property from RA residential agricultural to office institutional with the conditions shown on the screen. Some of these conditions specify permitted use to only be a data center consistent with the site plan shown. Reevaluation of the zoning status if land disturbance permit is not submitted within 2 years. That is condition 4 there. Additional conditions, increased landscaping buffer around the perimeter, undisturbed or enhanced where the existing buffer is insufficient, subject to planning and zoning approval. We also wanted to add a condition regarding ground signage and the lighting standards for the proposed development. Those wrap up the planning and zoning recommended conditions. I do want to add that staff did receive a letter of opposition from a property owner in the area. A copy of that was provided via email earlier this week, as well as a hard copy was provided at your seats. With that, thank you so much, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have questions for staff?
One quick question.
Yes.
What are the buffer zone that's going to be established for this data center?
The buffer, you said?
Yes.
By code, it would be required to be 40-foot buffer. Condition 7 there actually increased that buffer to 60 feet. Within the buffer, again, trying to keep that existing vegetation as much as possible. Where that existing vegetation is insufficient, provide some additional screening, all detailed under condition 7.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? Yes, Mr. B.
Yeah. If this was zoned as residential, what would be the maximum housing allotment that could go in there?
Yep, that density would be based, the number of houses would be based on that future land use map designation of low-density suburban, up to 2 dwelling units per acre. With it being 148, that would be roughly 300 homes, give or take.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for staff? If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. This is an associated case. We are allowing 20 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Engine, 20604 Norman, 4th Avenue Southwest, Normandy Park, Washington, 98166.
Scott Green, Thomas & Hutton Engineering, 5553 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia.
Andy Camp, Thomas & Hutton Engineering, 818 Burkdale Boulevard, Carrollton, Georgia, 30116.
Thank you.
Down arrow. Thank you. Our aim for this parcel is to provide a data center, one building at 508,000 square feet, maintaining the natural buffers in the trees. We've planned this to have about 58% of open space, or about 86 acres. We have taken into account the existing farmlands, and we've placed the buildings and the building components within the cleared space already for the land. It will remain a single story with a maximum height of 30 feet? 30 feet, which is shorter than the trees that are on site and shorter than the trees that we'll be planting. Here's the existing site plan. As you can see, we have respected a lot of the existing natural buffers, and we do plan to maintain those natural buffers as well as add to them with trees and shrubberies as we plant during the development process. As far as noise will all be contained to that interior corridor of that between the CUP and the data center building. So the noise that will radiate off-site will be nothing more than what you hear today. This is the existing view of the parcel of entry. This is on the north side of the parcel at Georgia Highway 20. This is what it will look like day one after we've constructed and planted. And this is what it will look like when the trees are fully grown. This is the view of the eastern boundary of the parcel. This would be driving southbound down Simpson Mill Road. There is a parcel between us and the boundary line. We will maintain that tree boundary that you see there. And this is what it will look like. Those are the trees on day one. And we will plant additional trees and buffers. So this is what it will look like when the trees are fully grown. These are the trees that we have selected. Most of them grow between 30 and 60 feet tall. We have additional trees and shrubberies that will provide lower vision screening. And we will plan to ensure that these trees have limited shock, so we will be growing a nursery on site as we develop the parcel. This data center site will create 25 full-time jobs with about an average starting salary of $85,000 a year. It'll create about 200 construction jobs, and it will need local business support with regards to maintaining a facility grounds, the facility maintenance of the mechanical engineering and plumbing, and additional services. For this site, it is a single building, which will represent $1.2 million in tax revenues in the first year, growing up to $4.6 million in tax revenue once the site is fully operational, and that would be at year 3. The data center building itself represents $4.8 million in real property taxes and will pay about $1.9 million in impact fees in 2024. The data center will require approximately 192 megawatts of power from an on-site substation that will be constructed and paid for by the development. The data center will be air-cooled, and there will be no additional infrastructure requirements beyond the office and employee space for water and sewer. When we looked at this parcel, we carefully considered the impacts to the community in our design, which is why we chose an air-cooled solution. We also looked at the impacts of what else could be on this site as far as single-family residential units and warehouses. In addition to looking at that analysis, we've made that comparison. With regards to our water and sewer, we are less than 1/20th of the use of either a 1 million square foot warehouse that could be placed on this site or 144 single-family lots in a more conserved residential area. Our traffic impact, as we only have 25 employees, but we will have additional services, is about 473 trips per day, which is significantly less than that of an industrial warehouse or single-family residential community. We will generate about $2.8 million in annual tax revenue for the schools, which I believe is about 5 times more than an industrial warehouse development or single-family residence. And as I noted, we will have significant tax revenue generation, which is about, at full development, 9 times more than the industrial warehouse development. Any questions?
Does the board have questions for the applicant?
Not at this time.
Okay, well, I have a question. Did you say 25 employees or 35?
25.
25, and you did say trucks.
No.
The traffic coming in?
Our traffic coming in will be primarily employees.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have at this time. Okay. We have 14 minutes and 12 seconds for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Okay, I don't see anyone coming forward. We'd like to allot 20 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. I understand there are quite a few people that want to speak, so please keep in mind that everyone wants to speak. So we have 20 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jean Kessinger. I live on Rocky Creek Road at 323. Our road parallels the Simpson Mill. Data centers damage the air quality. They require controlled airflow, which leads to a buildup of airborne contaminants such as VOCs. They also have a lot of e-waste, VOCs, CO2. They make noise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. And you can hear the hum or knock of the huge generators as much as 2.5 miles away. I can hear the racetrack 7 miles away with the cars and the stadium being full with applause. I'm not opposed to the racetrack. I moved here because of it. I did not move here to have my water contaminated or anything else. They use incredible amounts of electricity, which cause brownouts. We're an older, established rural area. We have older people that have medical equipment. You don't brown out on medical equipment. You'll cause somebody their life. They create massive amounts of e-waste, which I've already said, and I've only named a few of the things that it causes. They're known to, when they damage the air, to create problems with hearing loss, stress to humans and animals, high blood pressure, hypertension, and anxiety, just to name a few. We're right there. we're hollering distance. The cows that used to be in that field, we could hear in our backyard. So it's not like it's not going to have an impact on us. We don't want it. We're not opposed to a residential community being built back there of quality and size, like Edinburgh, which is just down the road from us. We have no problem with the additional traffic of families. They create very few jobs. 25 jobs is insignificant. There's no janitor jobs. Most of that stuff's done by a robot, like you have at BJ's or something like that. They're horrible for local communities. You live close to a data center, it'll drain and pollute your water, guzzle your energy, pump toxins into your air, and make a lot of noise. Bring little or no local jobs, and will be gone in 15 to 20 years, leaving a big, ugly shell behind. That's per Jerry McGowan, somebody who knows all about data centers in Europe and the United States. And he's very specific with regards to one in Utah at the Citadel. They're super secretive too. Ask them how much water they use. They won't tell you. They make lots of money for their investors. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you. I yield.
They said that it is air-cooled.
Please state your name and address
I'm
for the
sorry.
record, ma'am.
Linda Kerr, 992 Arbor Way, McDonough.
Okay.
They said they're air-cooled, and that means fans. Fans are the big cause of noise and using up a lot of electricity. For 25 jobs, this is a terrible price for Henry County residents to pay. I am against it. I yield.
My name is Richard Moreau. I live at 2908, just around, up the street, around the corner from here, 2908 Highway 20 West, 30228. And I haven't done the research that these individuals have about the specific facility. However, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about the congestion already on Highway 20. And I'm thinking about some of the serious accidents we've already had on Highway 20. They say 25 employees. It's a 500,000 square foot facility. Maybe 25 direct employees, but how many contractors? How many people are there to maintain the facility? How many people are there to do contract work for them at the same time? How many people are actually going to be employed at this area? I believe 25 is their direct impact, but I don't think that's the whole story. And I think we need to look at this corridor. I drive that every day. And especially when you get back towards the interstate, the congestion there is out of control, especially come the holidays. I think that needs to be considered. I'm not saying a subdivision be the right thing. I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I'm just telling you what my 2 cents are, and I live directly across the road from where that's at. Thank you.
My name is Ann Fields, 329 Chase Marion Way, McDonough, Georgia, 30253. I just wanted to state that the flum is not a suggestion. It never was. It's been solidified and voted for. That's our long-term plan. We would love it if you guys could stick to that. There are issues of water consumption, noise pollution, power drain, water drain. This is an ecologically and environmentally unsound, ungreen project. Data centers are known to emit greenhouse gases. Backup generators emit pollutants. There was no long-term discussion on the difference between a water-cooled and an air-cooled and the backup power that's going to be required to do this. We're poorly equipped in Henry County to have this discussion. This is a very, very serious discussion. We can't even get internet and competitive internet in this county, but you're going to have Verizon, CenturyLink, AT&T digging up and constructing fiber lit into those facilities. So that's a lot of forthcoming construction to get data into the data center. There was no mention of the traffic caused by the utility companies coming and going. and the companies that are renting space in cages in those data centers, in and out, router changes, new equipment, new cage. I would like to see a more elaborate discussion in regards to noise abatement and pollution control from Henry County as a whole, for data centers in this county as a whole. I feel we are very ill-prepared to discuss this. I also have yet to attend any planning and zoning or commissioners meeting where our citizens have enthusiastically approved and encouraged the utter destruction of Henry County, our beautiful trees, and our land. Resoundingly, the population does seek to conserve Henry. We invite everyone to join us in conserving Henry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Connie Snow, and I live at 426 Chase Marion Way. I'm also a part of Conserve Henry. Ann kind of summed it up at least for how I feel. We pretty much had the same, opinions and ideals on this whole situation. Going back to the traffic, why me only employ 25 employees? How many companies is that data center going to house? Because each company is going to have multiple people that are going to need to access that data center any given time of day. So if you've got maybe 100 companies in that data center, that traffic's going to be way more than 458 people. Additionally, this is in a failing school district. I don't know if you guys are aware, but I keep repeating this at every meeting I attend, that we have over 15 failing schools in Henry County. That's close to 30, that's actually over 38%. We're almost close to the 50% mark. Adding that data center is not going to benefit the schools in that district, which is Luella, which again is one of the failing ones. To piggyback off of Ann as well, that changing the FLUM is going to open it up to change other areas in that map that were already set forth on that FLUM, something that we are constantly experiencing through the county as a whole, even in areas like the city of Stockbridge. So at some point, you guys made an agreement to a map. You said this is what we were going to abide by. We need to abide by it. We need to quit changing everything to fit the developers' needs, and we need to start paying attention more to what the citizens of this county wants. Because I can tell you right now, what we don't want and what we currently have is an extreme skyrocketing crime rate. Property values are already they're plummeting, mine's plummeting. You build this, anybody that lives in that area, their property values are gonna plummet. At some point, you guys gotta start caring about us and quit caring about these developers. We need to stop approving stuff because you've already approved 100 things that haven't even came down the pipe yet. Our infrastructure is going to crumple. It's going to add to climate change. We're going to have droughts because of this, because these take a lot of water. Power outages, everything everybody's echoed. That being said, I'm done.
Hi, I'm Denise Simpson Carter. I live at 436 Simpson Mill Road. This has got a lot of cons against it. I've been doing some research in the past few weeks over this. Several articles that I've come up with, they have said there's continuous noise. It's not contained. You've got cooling systems and generators that have to run continuously for these things. Anything over 50 degrees, these systems knock on. And how often does it actually stay below 50 degrees in this area? Because it doesn't. They also say it can disrupt your daily life, and it's just the noise. It can negatively impact everything. There's continuous exposure to the noise that's produced by this equipment can affect your health. They have problems with stress, sleep disturbances, hypertension, and heart problems caused by the continuous noise from this. One of the sites that I was visiting is zerosound.com. It describes the noise as a, quote, unrelenting hum, unquote, that becomes a daily irritant that can disrupt sleep and degrade the quality of life. In Virginia, the residents there, they have a number of the data centers up there. They have filed numerous complaints near Leesburg itself for noise heard as far as 3 miles from the centers. Not 30 feet, not 60 feet, but 3 miles. They compare it to an airplane engine, a freight train, a huge leaf blower, or a helicopter hovering overhead day and night. In North Dakota, homeowners say it's, quote again, a continual invasion of their homes, their health, and their way of life. And there's other examples given in that. That's on resilience.org. Personally, I'm concerned about this because the location of my property is just to the southeast kind of where they've got the building shown. And the direction of the creeks and everything, I know there's information talking about that they would be having to add sewer and that sort of thing, and I'm very concerned about that, and also about the runoff, because regardless of what they put in, when you've got a building that size and all this concrete, everything that's going to be built around it, that water's got to go somewhere. And considering the lay of the land, I'm thinking it's going to be headed towards me. There's also effects on livestock, wildlife. MIT reader, they say that the electricity that's consumed is the equivalent of 50,000 homes. And you already talked about that the number of homes that would be on this property if it was done as it's zoned now would be 300, not 50,000. And that still doesn't mention the water, even though they said it would be air-cooled. There's still going to be some water involved in all of that as well. The other concern I would have also is talked about public safety, that Station 14 would be responsible for it. Station 14 could not handle a fire at that location. If that building was fully involved, it would take every fire truck in this county and then some. So I would really like to see that this is turned down and stay with the land use that has already been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Samantha Carter, 436 Simpson Mill Road, McDonough. And you're going to hear a lot about the agricultural aspects from me, as I come from a long line of farmers in this area. So, consider the area surrounding this proposed data center. It is pretty much all agricultural. Now, your data center, the cooling systems for the computers and equipment that they house will run 24/7, meaning they will produce a runoff 24/7. Now, let me remind you, there are 2 creeks, a field of crops, and a pasture near this property. And so that will mean that there will be chemicals and runoff running into those creeks, contaminating the field, and potentially making a cow sick. The crops that are grown in these fields will come to you for your food, and so do you want that waste in your food? So consider these things before you decide to bring something we don't need to Henry County.
Good evening. My name is Marjorie Brown. I live at 1755 Signature Court, Hampton, Georgia. No, I'm not in District 1. I'm actually in District 5. But my daughter lives in Loudoun County, Virginia, where near Dulles Airport, she is actually in the city of Ashburn. There are rows and rows of these data centers. The residents didn't realize at first, when the first center went in place, the harm that it would do to the community. Now there is a community of data centers, just rows and rows for miles that you can see of data centers. The first thing I want to mention is the noise, and you've heard that over and over again. There's a constant hum in the air. The data centers are more of a pest than Dulles Airport, with airplanes landing, coming in and out constantly. Then the data centers are resource intensive. You've heard the speakers before me talk about how much water power is needed, how much electrical power is needed to keep these huge computers that are housed in these buildings to keep them functional. They are absolutely visually unappealing. And as a result of these things, the property values in Loudoun County, Ashburn, Virginia have plummeted, which used to be the second highest income and property value county in the country. So it's a negative impact, and to bring 25 jobs to our county, it's not worth it. I wish we could expend more energy on bringing company headquarters here that will bring hundreds and thousands possibly of jobs of the people that we expect to occupy the thousands of apartments, high-rent apartments that we're building here. The last thing I would like to say is that this is one building, but there will be more because they tend to build in clusters. Community, especially rural counties and rural communities all over the country, are battling this issue of data centers, wanting to come in their communities because they see the properties or the land is cheap, and there is usually sufficient excess power in water and electricity for them to use. So I urge you not to approve a data center for our community, and let's look towards more companies that are more beneficial to our community.
Thank you.
George Taylor, 3014 Rocky Creek Road in Hampton. I've got a question concerning is the county offering a tax incentive package for this company to come out here? Does anybody know? Is that a question anybody could answer?
It's not a question that this board answers, sir.
Beg your pardon?
That's not a question that this board is prepared to answer.
Okay, what about fire? Now, I'm concerned about if this thing caught on fire, if there's been any kind of an assessment done as to what's going to be released in the atmosphere of the surrounding community.
Sir, if you have questions, they need to be directed to the Planning and Zoning Board. Well, not the board, but Planning and Zoning during the course of our business.
Okay, do you know whether the company actually owns this property or not, or is it still to be bought? Does anybody know?
Again, sir, this is not a question session for the board.
Okay. All right, thank you. I want to go on the record as opposed to this project. Thank you.
Okay, we have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 second, sir.
1 second?
1 second. State your name and address.
Okay.
And I'm sure you oppose.
You really? Can I have maybe 30 seconds?
No, sir.
Okay. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right. Does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant?
I have questions for the applicant.
Yes.
So I guess to start off questions, there's been so much talk about the noise.
Mm-hmm.
What can you expound upon there?
So this data center will be a first of its kind. It will have actually reduced on-site generation. So it's actually not comparable to existing data centers. We will have about a third less of those, and we will seek to do noise attainment. So that's generally what we can do to help support that. We are also open to sound walls and whatever would satisfy the condition of the community to make sure that we don't.
Have you had any information on, like, what the decibel levels would be?
Yeah, our decibel
This-
levels right now are at the 65 decibel levels, right on site in the middle, but we can do a further noise analysis to make sure that we meet those conditions.
Okay. So,
65
and
dB is
you described in your presentation that
Yeah.
the noise is between your,
It's between the two the smaller buildings, that's where they're contained. So that's where the generators would be placed.
and the noise is coming from the air conditioning systems?
For when the generators are maintained once a month.
So the majority?
And they're backup generators. The primary source of power would be from the substation.
So it's the 55 decibels, is that constant or just when the generators are going? I'm trying to understand.
So that would be at the generator, that would be the limits that we're held to from the county, right? That's the parcel conditions, so we have to meet those regardless of whether they're operating or not.
Okay, so, but.
Yeah,
they're
so
gonna
we would
make
make sure
noise.
that, we would make sure that when we're doing anything, that they meet that threshold. But our noise analysis will do that.
Okay. And you would get it down, what's the county level for decibels?
I would need to double check, but I can have that pulled up.
But it's probably that 55.
55 or 65.
Okay.
Which one is it? Yeah, okay.
I'll have that answer to you here shortly.
Sure. But that level is just when the generators are going. When the generators aren't going, what kind of noise level do you have as, your baseline, kind of with the air conditioners going and that?
I would have to double check, but I think it's about 1/3 of that, or 2/3 of that, so.
And if it tops out above, then you're going to put in sound walls in addition to whatever else you're doing already.
Yes, exactly.
The way the building's designed and laid out here, you've got the power generators there, then the building, and then what are those markings? Is that parking? Is that offloading for semis, or what's?
That's parking at the office block on the other side.
Right, and what I'm going for is to the bottom there, which would be
just mechanical.
The east, I guess.
Oh, those are the electrical e-houses. Those are electrical e-houses for the lineups.
So are there noise coming from them other than just a hum from the?
Just the hum from the.
Yeah,
the
electric stuff.
Electric.
Yeah, it's not fans and all that.
And I do have an answer regarding the decibel levels as per the noise ordinance of Henry County. At night, obviously being the lowest allowed, is 60 decibels.
60, okay. And that's at the highest, all right.
That's at night. Right.
Yes, that is, that 60 decibel level, that is the lowest that we would be able to allow at night. During the day, it's a little bit higher.
Sure, but if the generator kicks on, it's going to be whatever time of day you need it, so that would go for the nights.
So we would have to maintain that 60 decibels.
No higher than 60.
Mr. Richard.
I did not see that you had any contact with the Henry County Water Authority or the Stormwater Department. And then secondly, why did you not seek locations in one of our industrial parks where there is ample sewage and water available?
We do have approval letters from Henry County Water Authority where we have coordinated with them and they have committed to be able to serve this project. That's one of the first, that's one of the stipulations of this rezoning application.
Did you bring a letter with you?
Yes, and I can add to that. With the rezoning application, that does require a letter from the Henry County Water and Sewage Authority, providing that detail if water or sewer service is available to the project. I don't have the date off the top of my head. It's actually my presentation. but the letter specified that water and sewage capacity were available. However, off-site sewer line extension would be required at the expense of the developer.
Okay, I don't see it in here, but, okay.
And I had seen it in the package when I was reading it, so. As far as some more questions here, now you say you have 25 employees, but yeah, as the questions came out of contractors coming in and all that, how does?
So,
Excuse me, 1 second. Steph, can we address the noise that's coming from outside?
okay, so this is a single end user that will occupy this site as well as the site that we'll discuss later. So this is a single end user, and we will require services from local businesses to service, as I noted, the janitorial, the facility itself. So yes, there will be additional services that we would contract with.
Okay. And the 25 are just really taking care of the data?
They're really just taking care of the data
yeah.
center themselves.
As far as you say this is air-cooled, as far as, there are other ones that are water-cooled, what's the potential of you turning to water later?
We've actually done a lot of diligence and design, and we've kept within the requirements of what's been recommended by the Water Authority. So we know that we cannot go to that based on the strict requirements that have been outlined.
Okay.
And I would like to quickly add that when it comes time, in the event this is approved by the Board of Commissioners, at the time of permitting, the Water Authority conducts their own review of all of those permits. So those requirements would need to be met by them.
And would it be worth putting in a condition that if it ever does want to go to water cool, it would have to come back and to the commissioners and have that approval?
That is certainly a power that you have to recommend that as part of the conditions.
The power, I know there's a main power line going through the property already. Is that what you're drawing your substations off of, or is there?
Yes.
You have to go further to other lines?
Yes, so we will be coming off of that line right there, that existing.
So no additional out to get power there. Fire suppression, if there was a fire in the data center, I'm sure you're really set up to take care of that because you don't want to destroy the equipment, but can you describe that?
Sure. So the data center building would have a ESR sprinkler system, similar to what you see in industrial applications, warehouses. There'd be on-site fire tanks that would house enough water to be able to supply for a fire. Then be able to recharge after use.
Okay. Sewer connection. How far do you have to go for a sewer connection?
Sewer is currently to the southwest of, southeast Plainview. Sewer is actually available in 2 locations to the south of the property.
Okay. All right, and as far as buffers, in your visual, you had, the buffers which block out the building. The concern might be, are there enough evergreens in there? Because, half the year, basically, you don't have leaves on the trees. So to ensure that the evergreen coverage is extensive in those buffers. And also the width of the buffer, because I know if we were to approve this, that, the roads, you have to definitely make it rural character. but I'm concerned about the other border lines that go on to property that's not developed right now, but sometime down the road, probably a subdivision is going to go in there. So, I'm not sure if the 60-foot buffer is enough to get enough growth to really hide it, I guess, is what I'm thinking of, expanding that buffer to 75 or 100 feet.
So to answer a couple of your questions there, if you look at the screen, you can, the top tree is an oak, which would be deciduous, but you can see the other species that we have identified are evergreens to provide that evergreen buffer during the winter months of the year. We'd also propose to do some berming in there to add some height to the buffer.
Is the and the berming's like 6 foot, I think it was, if I read that correctly. And the building is 30 feet tall?
Yes, sir.
So with these, they're saying like 16 foot, 12 foot, 16, 10. Doesn't seem.
These are at initial plant growth. I mean, those, the giant green arboreta, I've got 3 in my yard and they're 50 feet tall or better. So.
Understand. So, but this is the size you'd be planting, and then they would grow from there. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Just from a longevity of the plant, it's really difficult to plant larger plants. So, there are some sizes that you can plant. We would plant the largest that we would feel would be able to survive.
Sure. Okay. All right. I think I ran out of questions.
All right, Mr. Richard.
Okay, I do see that in the zoning report that you did get a letter from the Water Authority, but they indicated, please note, this property is in the Tioga River watershed area and must meet the guidelines set forth in the Henry County Watershed Protection Ordinance. And I think they gave you a copy of that ordinance. Did you do some study or research to see if you complied with the criteria in the Tioga Watershed Protection Area Ordinance?
Yes, sir, we did. I think that was a section 3.04. I can't remember the exact ordinance number, but yes, sir, we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Richardson.
Yes, thank you. How will increased traffic be managed during construction and operation of the data center?
Well, they'll come in and out of the newly constructed roads. There is already an existing median. Hello? There's already an existing median break on 20 there with an existing left-hand turn lane.
Okay.
Are you asking about during construction operations as well?
I am.
So that's something that we would work with GDOT on with regards to our plans. Should this be successful, then we go to the GDOT application process with regards to the roads and the construction capacities that we would do, as well as with the county.
Okay. Additionally, what measures will be put in place to ensure the safety of residents, including emergency services and any response plans at the data center?
Emergency response plans, is that what you said?
Yeah, anything that happens, I think there was a question similar to that earlier about anything that might take place at the data center. What are the plans to mitigate any impacts?
Like a fire?
Yeah, fire.
Oh, okay, so go ahead with the fire.
Well, kind of like I mentioned, the data center building itself will have sprinkler systems inside the building, meet all Henry County and state building codes related to that. We'll have 2 points of access into the site. The access that would be coming off of Rocky Creek would be for emergency purposes only, not an everyday use driveway. So we would have 2 egresses in and out of the property for emergency, and the building and its facilities would be equipped with fire sprinkler systems.
Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Randolph?
Yes. Coming off of Mr. Risher's question, have you considered other sites that are out of residential areas?
So we've looked at a few different sites. However, unfortunately, we need the size of the parcel that has been outlined here. So in looking in other areas, it's just a little too far from certain accessible utilities, including power.
Which leads me into my second question. How much power is going to be pulled from the grid on this?
So for this one, 192 megawatts.
And that equals how many houses?
I'm sorry,
I don't have a calculation on equivalent for houses.
Any additional questions, Ms. Randolph?
I think it would be helpful for us to understand how much power is actually being pulled off the grid.
Ms. Randolph, I want to add something related to your comment there. So we're dealing, we've been talking to utility providers at length for many months now. Central Georgia EMC is one of the main utility provider we've been speaking with. They're regulated by the North American Electric Reliability Corporation as a self-governing entity over all electrical providers, Georgia Power, EMC, and many other large electrical providers in the country. They've got to study and evaluate each load, whether it's a single-family home, a business, a data center, a manufacturing facility. And as part of the North American Electric Reliability Corporation regulations, the electric service they have got to study the grid to make sure they don't negatively affect existing customers to be served, that are already be served on the grid.
And you've provided us that study?
Ma'am?
And you've provided the study to the staff?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And staff?
You're talking about staff here or the EMC?
Both, our staff and to the EMC.
The EMC and GTC, Georgia Transmission Corporation, they are the ones that actually do the studies. We don't do the power studies. They study the grid to understand if the grid can support the use.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. One, I want to go back to the water issue. What do you perceive as being a possible problem?
So I heard a couple of comments from a few speakers earlier I wanted to touch on. So related to the potential runoff of chemicals onto adjacent property. So the stormwater will be handled as any other facility or subdivisions. Stormwater will be handled by the Georgia Stormwater Manual. That will be local, state, and federal regulations we have to provide from a stormwater standpoint. When rain falls on the facility, in the parking lots, it'll be handled, to the degree many other developments within Henry County and in the state of Georgia will be handled. The cooling water and the cooling that goes on within the system is internally closed, and any condensate discharge is what goes to the sewer system. So the sewer discharge is condensate that comes from the cooling.
Okay. So,
Yes, sir.
now, are you saying there is a possibility of a runoff, or?
No, there's no runoff that's going to come from inside. The cooling system is not discharged to the ground. So its condensate is picked up in piping and sent underground into the gravity sewer system. It's air conditioning condensate.
Okay. Now, in terms of brownouts, at some of your other facilities, have you experienced any brownouts?
Was that brownout or groundout? I'm sorry.
Brownouts,
Okay, go ahead.
I got this. Generally, no. If we do, it will be an emergency event due to weather or human error, meaning somebody accidentally cut a pipe in the street and it cut the power, or not cut the power, but cut the networking. But other than that, we have not, in the 10 years that I've been doing this, we haven't experienced a significant outage.
Okay, just two more questions. Now, you stated that this is a new facility. Has it been tested?
We have a testing facility that we've done in another part of the country, and that technology will be deployed here.
Okay. And being that it has been tested, the 65% decimal, is that continuous?
Yeah, that would be continuous.
That's continuous noise?
Well, we'll give you the noise modeling study to make sure, to show you the decibel levels.
Okay, so even if it's 55%?
It'd be lower.
It is, okay, well, let's just say it's 35%. It's continuous 35%.
Continuous,
So
correct.
it is a humming noise?
There will be, yes.
Okay.
What happened, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's all I have.
What happens if the decibels raise higher? What happens if the testing shows that it's getting up into the 70s, 80s% of decibels?
At that point, the noise ordinance would come into effect. They would need to lower that decibel level.
We would have to shut down basically until we can meet that threshold again.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Okay, you may be seated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no further questions, we would like to call the case.
COMPAM 2402, 0 Rocky Creek Road, LLC of Wilmington, DE, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located south of Highway 20 West, east of Rocky Creek Road, in land lots 211, 238, and 243 of the 6th District. The property consists of 148.199 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density suburban to office institutional. District 1, presented by Kentel Lanham, Planner 3.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve with the conditions that staff have, along with to increase the buffer on all sides to 75 feet, and that they would have to return to the commissioners for approval of changing to water cooled.
As a point of clarification, those conditions.
Yeah, that'd be on the zoning, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mrs. Walker. Any discussion? All in favor? It's like we have a vote of all opposed. Motion carries. We have for the record, that's a vote of 3-2. Call the next case, please.
RZ 2407, 0 Rocky Creek Road, LLC of Wilmington, DE, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to OI Office Institutional for property located south of Highway 20 West, east of Rocky Creek Road, in land lots 211, 238, and 243 of the 6th District. The property consists of 148.199 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a data center. District 1, presented by Kenna Lanham, Planner 3.
Proceed, Ken.
Yeah, and this is for RZ 2407.
RZ 2407.
Yes, sir.
Rocky Creek. Okay, do we have a motion? I'm sorry.
Yes, I move to approve with staff conditions, along with the addition of a buffer on all sides of the property that's 75 feet minimum, and if they plan on turning into a water-cooled site, they would need to return to the commissioners for approval.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a second by Mrs. Walker. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 3-2. Okay, call the next case, please.
COMPAM 2406, Strickland Road Farms LLC of McDonough, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located on Strickland Road, east of Simpson Mill Road and north of Walker Drive in land lots 239, 240, 241, and 242 of the 3rd District, and 241 and 242 of the 6th District. The property consists of 249.8 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density suburban to office institutional, District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 3. And this is an associated case, RZ 2420, Strickland Road Farms LLC of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning request from RA, residential agricultural, to OI, office institutional, for property located on Strickland Road, east of Simpson Mill Road and north of Walker Drive, in land lots 239, 240, 241, and 242 of the 3rd District, and 241 and 242 of the 6th District. The property consists of 249.8 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a data center. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 3.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, and pillars of the community. The item before you is a property located on Strickland Road, east of Simpson Mill Road, and north of Walker Drive, consisting of 249.8 plus or minus acres. The request before you is to amend the future land use map designations of the property, as well as subsequent rezoning. Property is currently zoned RA, residential agricultural, with a future land use map designation of low-density suburban. Here is that site plan with Simpson Mill on the bottom and Hampton Locust Road on the right side. Here are some department comments that we received from Henry County Water and Sewage Authority, the Department of Transportation and Transportation Planning, and the Fire Department. Similar to the last request, this property did proceed to the DRI process with state review, and at the conclusion of that, a notice of decision was provided, which includes a list of required road improvements necessary to support the development. Those project-related improvements specified by that notice of decision are required by Chapter 8 of the ULDC. I would also like to add that this subject property has a small portion of frontage along Hampton Locust Grove Road. That road was actually included in the recently approved SPLOST 6 project list to widen that road from 2 to 4 lanes. Applicant is requesting to amend the future land use map from low-density suburban to office institutional, which again would be supported within the rural community character area. Rather, it would be appropriate, I should say, if master planned with vegetative buffers along public roadways to protect that rural character. In addition, the applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property from RA to O&I for the purpose of that data center. Property is located within a water quality limited development area and would need to meet those requirements under Section 30400. Once again, this is the site plan for the proposed development. With this, staff is recommending approval of Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2406 to change that future land use map designation from low-density suburban to office institutional, as well as staff is recommending approval of RZ 2420, rezoning from RA to O&I with those conditions on the screen.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff?
Not at this time.
How far is it from the other one on Simpson, right off of Simpson Road?
That subject property is not too far. That request just previously is this property.
So approximately how many miles or?
A fraction of a mile. It is more or less across the street.
Any additional questions for, yes, Mr. Richard?
Yeah, this is just a question, since this is on the comprehensive land use plan. Would this type of use, should it not be light industrial rather than office institutional? It seems similar to warehouses, and they're required to be in an industrial type zoning.
Certainly. The staff reviewed the request for a data center and was trying to find the best fit as far as the zoning designation. What should we classify this as? Staff did come to the conclusion of office institutional, which is the reasoning for proceeding down that route.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay, if not, I'd like to call the applicant forward, please. Again, state your name and address for the record.
Hello again.
Good evening.
Christy Swearingen, 20604 4th Avenue Southwest, Normandy Park, Washington, 98166.
Scott Green, 5553 Peachtree Road, Atlanta, Georgia.
Andy Camp, 818 Burkdale Boulevard, Carrollton, Georgia.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you. Our goal with this parcel is to be the final phase, right? So in addition to Rocky Creek, this would be our final phase. So between what you've seen before and this phase, that's it. We do not plan to expand like in Loudoun County with all the other data center providers. This will be a single tenant use for both sites, single end user. And this site will be 2 buildings totaling 1.1 million square feet. We're definitely considerate of what we've heard here. Obviously, we want to respect as much of the natural buffers and what's on site. We've planned our buildings with regards to where the farmlands have already been taken down the trees, and we're designating about 134 acres of open space. This is the parcel and the parcel overlay. We'll have an entrance on Simpson Mill Road. That will be the primary entrance, with a secondary entrance off of Walker Drive. That is a significant buffer between Walker Drive and the backside of that building, and that will be for emergency services only. This is the entrance, or what the proposed planned entrance location looks like right now. Day one with all of our plantings and our fully grown trees. This is the driving up northbound on Simpson Mill Road. The southern parcel, this is where the topography is the highest. This natural buffer will maintain, these trees will be maintained, and we will add trees as well. So this will be day one, and when the trees are fully grown. This is Walker Drive. This will maintain, and it will remain as is. As we noted prior, we do plan to grow the trees on site for this development in order to make sure that they thrive and survive, as well as when they're planted in their final locations, that they grow healthy. This site will yield about 65 full-time new jobs. Obviously, same average annual starting salary of $85,000 and about 450 construction jobs. The tax revenue is very similar to that of Rocky Creek. However, it's doubled because we have two buildings here. So each building will yield about $1.2 million in equipment taxes in year one, growing to $4.6 million by year four, which is the life cycle of the development, or the life cycle of the build of the development. And each building will have about $4.8 million in real property taxes through 2035. The property, should everything work out, will pay about $4.4 million in impact fees this year. Much like the other data center, this is air-cooled, limited infrastructure with regards to sewer and water. However, the power will be about 448 megawatts of an on-site substation built and maintained on-site and controlled by the development. We did a similar comparison here with regards to what can be done. I think industrial warehouse was potential here. It's about 1.7 million square feet of industrial warehouse space that could be planted on this site with about twice the amount of trips, 3.5 times the amount of trips for trucks and traffic, and about 1/9 of what we would generate in property tax revenue. Anything else? I think that's about it. Any questions?
Does the board have questions for the applicant?
Yes. I saw there was 4,100 gallons of water usage. How will the water usage be managed to prevent any strain on local resources?
How many gallons did you say, sir? Sorry.
4,100.
Yeah, 4,100. That's our account.
So that is the water usage of the day-to-day operations of the employees.
Mm-hmm.
Since the system is really a low to no water use, it will be closed-looped inside the facility, so it will not need a large adiabatic type use, which is larger water user type cooling system. It's not the proposed cooling system to be used here. And we will coordinate with Henry County Water Authority throughout our entire permitting and construction process.
Okay. What type of positions will be available, and will there be opportunities for local hiring and training?
Yes, there will be opportunities for local hiring and training. Should this be successful in the rezoning process, one of the first things we would start is reaching out with the local community college to create a training program for the data center technicians. So the jobs, while we say $85,000 starting salary, those who are in management level go into $150,000 to $200,000 a year.
I know you guys talked about this data center being something new. Yep. Are there any plans to use renewable energy?
Yes, absolutely. We're currently working with Central Georgia EMC on sourcing solar electrons to service the site.
Great, thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay, there was some concerns earlier about the actual ownership of the property. Have you guys purchased this property?
We have not purchased this one. We own Rocky Creek.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ms. Randolph.
Have you already identified who will be using the data center? Like what company will be housing their data?
Yes.
And can you share that?
I would breach confidentiality disclosure.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, you may be seated. Thank you. We have 15 minutes and 38 seconds for anyone wishing to speak in favor. I don't see anyone coming forward. We would like to allot 20 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. And if you, I'll say this, if you did not speak previously, it would be good if your counterparts would allow you to speak now.
My name is, I'm sorry.
Proceed, sir.
My name is Joe Chappell. I own the property that's directly across from this. I have several concerns. Mainly, there is the noise issue. Even at 50 decibels, My property is directly across the road, which is almost me to you. 50 decibels may not sound like a lot, but it is a noise, and it is constant. Normal other data centers are much louder than this. They use much more water. These people, these developers are saying they've got this brand new technology, but they're also promising over $8 million a year in taxes. So when they get disapproved and they get started, when their brand new technology don't work or it's too expensive for them, the county's gonna let them change it because it's over $8 million a year in taxes. They're not gonna turn that down. They're not gonna run them off after y'all approve this. What is this gonna do to my livestock? A constant noise. Livestock doesn't appreciate constant noise. What's this gonna do to my property value? It's not gonna, nobody's gonna wanna buy my property directly across the street from this eyesore. 20 years from now, when it's obsolete and it's an empty building, what's that gonna do to the county? What's that gonna do to the local areas? The rainwater. This property drains directly across under Simpson Mill Road through the creek into my pond. All right, they put retention ponds in. I'm in construction. I know what retention ponds do. I know what happens during the building process. My pond probably won't survive the building process due to erosion issues, overflows, silt fence failures. This is just also just coming out of left field. They were very deceptive about this, in my opinion. They have these non-disclosures. They lie to your face. Property owners lie to your face about what's coming. It's just not right. The county, this board and their predecessors have already ruined this county, letting it be overpopulated and overdeveloped. And this is just the next step in the destruction of Henry County. This is why all your original property owners, people who've been here more than 5, 6, 10 years, have left this county and are leaving this county. My father and my grandfather are buried in this county. We've been here. I just don't feel this is right, and this is an atrocity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Again, my name is Jean Kessinger. I live on Rocky Creek Road. I've lived there for over 30 years. Just as a matter of importance, this morning I had a power outage. They happen all the time in that area, all the time. So when somebody tells me that we're not going to have brownouts or power outages, that's Georgia EMC, by the way, not Georgia Power, that's Georgia EMC. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, only it's going to be worse and it's going to be longer, and let us have an ice storm like we have a few years back, and we'll be out days. This I just found, new data risks concerning data centers. This is largely driven by the ever-increasing power need to deal with expanding amounts of data, which is projected to double in the next 5 years, when compared to the past decade, according to business intelligence firm Statistica. This is why data centers could hit obsolescence sooner than you think. The other thing is nobody on Rocky Creek or on Simpson Mill that is against this enjoys being a guinea pig, and that's what we are, because they've already said this is an untested center. We don't know what we're dealing with. Thank you very much for that opportunity.
My name is Bridget Chappell. I live at 876 Simpson Mill Road. I've lived there for about 32 years now. And Henry County used to be a beautiful place. Our road currently is a beautiful place. It kind of appears that you guys don't really care what the citizens think, but I wonder what you would think if this was being built across the street from your house and also behind your house. Because we're going to be in between the two. Our house, we're going to have the extreme displeasure of living between them both, which is probably going to essentially mean we're never going to be able to sell our property. So we'll be stuck, living between a data center for the rest of our lives. So I just wish you would consider the impact on the citizens, because the people who are proposing this, one's from Washington, one's from Carrollton, and one was from Atlanta. They don't even live in Henry County. They have no stake here, but I would assume that y'all do. And we definitely do. We've raised all of our children here, but we're looking for a place to live currently because we don't want to live in Henry County anymore.
My name is DeLon Burnside. I live at 975 Simpson Mill Road, just at the corner of Simpson Mill and Hampton Locust Grove Road. I purchased my property in 2021 to build a farm, a first-time homeowner and a first-time farmer, and I did not anticipate this area turning into this rural community as is designated by the Henry County Comp Plan to be turned into a data center. So my question here is, why are we recommending approval for this project in an area when we just spent taxpayer dollars and county resources to develop and adopt a comp plan that has designated it as a rural community? In the comp plan, it states the vision for rural community areas is to maintain a rural environment that accommodates some low-intensity residential growth, not data centers. It also states that this strategy is only as effective as the will to commit to it, to build better trust between the community and the county, as well as a more coordinated pattern of development. It is essential that a good faith effort is made to follow this strategy. This means resisting the temptation to support one-off projects that don't align with the strategy, while also potentially reversing course on previously considered public projects that no longer reflect this new policy direction. Why? This feels like we are doing exactly what the comp plan has set out not to do. What's the point of developing a plan if we're just going to amend it because a wealthy landowner and a powerful developer and corporation put forth an idea that's going to put money in some people's pockets? It's not even going to provide enough jobs to be a benefit for most of us in the community. I'd also like to highlight that the city of Atlanta just passed legislation to ban and restrict the building of these data centers, citing a number of the issues that have been put forth here today.
My name is Johnny Dykes. I live at 402 Oakland Road. I'm within earshot of the sound we are going to be hearing. I had no intention on speaking tonight. I came to listen to see what was going on. The longer I stay here, the madder I get. I had a question asked from the one before. I heard this data center is going to be using 192 megawatts of power. And one of you guys said, how much does the average house use? And everybody said, I don't know. I did a little research. 100 megawatts can power 80,000 US homes. I'm a numbers guy. 192 megawatts can power 153,600 US homes. I just pulled that data. So we made a decision to approve something, not even knowing the power pullage of this compared to a home. So I'm through. My church is beside this place. I'm not looking forward to having a humming sound. We do a huge community project. Every Christmas, it lasts for 3 days. We spend lots of money and we do a return to Bethlehem scene, and it's a live nativity scene. It brings back the story of Jesus. But we're gonna have a humming next door that's gonna shut this down because there's no way we're gonna be able to pull this outside. We have over 3,000 people come through this thing, but they're not gonna come anymore because there's gonna be a nice humming noise right next to our church that we just fought very hard to get out of the UMC to keep the doors open. I've been in Henry County for 59 years. I'm looking for an exit plan. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Williamson. I live at 2588 Lake Irma Drive. I'm against this, and I'm gonna give you some numbers to figure out why. We talk about the revenue that this will bring in. The revenue at the state level, short term, will bring in sales tax on construction material that will go away as soon as the construction is done. Sales use on equipment purchases, which will go away as soon as the buildings are set up and the construction is finished. Personal income taxes from construction will go away because those are all temporary jobs. What's the long term for the state? Sales taxes on power consumption, unemployment taxes on the permanent employees, which between the two facilities, you're only talking about 85 people. Now, what's the benefit for the community? Short term, we get the sales tax on the construction, temporary. We get the sales tax on the equipment purchases, that's during the startup and when they do replacements. And local income taxes from the construction workers while they're working. And we have the permanent employees that you would have income taxes from, which would fall up under the long term. You would have sales taxes on power consumption here in the county, local income taxes for the 85 permanent jobs that I just mentioned, the real estate taxes on the newly constructed building, and personal property taxes on the computer servers and the furniture and whatever equipment they use. But if you itemize your taxes, you know every year it depreciates. It doesn't go up, it goes down. The real impact of a data center. CBRE Data Center Solutions Group conducted an economic and fiscal impact study on a $1 billion data center development. Based on a typical community tax structure, as well as economic and demographic characteristics, a $1 billion data center would generate upwards of $200 million in total tax revenue for the state and the community over a 10-year period of time, including the one-time construction phase and ongoing operations. This $200 million fiscal impact is equivalent to a corporate headquarters creating 1,700 jobs with a $130,000 average salary and making $40 million in capital investments. These fiscal impact estimates were intended to be a ballpark comparison, but if I had to choose between two things that I didn't want in my community, a data center and more traffic, I would rather have the headquarters with the more traffic because I know with those people that they employ with the high income, they can feed their children, they can clothe their children, they can pay their house notes, they can pay their utilities bills. 85 people is not going to even make a dent in this community. Everyone spoke about the energy consumption. Data centers are one of the most energy-intensive building types, consuming 10 to 50 times the energy per floor space of a typical commercial office building. Collectively, these spaces account for approximately 2% of the total U.S. electricity use, 3% of the world's electricity, and are responsible for 2% of global CO2 emissions. That doesn't sound like much, but let me put it to you like this. Let's pretend that the world is your house, and somebody decided they would move in and take 3% of your house. Would you approve that? 3% of your house will feel like a whole lot. 3%, although you say the number, it doesn't seem like a lot, it is. It's a lot. Data centers need a lot of electricity and water to run and cool their facilities, as well as require access to multiple sources of reliable fiber-based broadband connectivity. High energy consumption continues to be an issue in a data center, but organizations are moving to try to make things energy efficient, but they haven't made it there yet. So for me, I say no. Let's look for some better things to bring into our community. Thank you.
My name is Leroy McKelvey. I'm gonna try to make this quick. Of course, I disapprove of it, mainly because, like they said, the power, the water consumption, the utility. I'm an IT professional. I've worked in a data center. I know the noise, I know the consumption, and those 25 people that works in those data center, half of them gonna be deaf by the time they leave there, because I worked in there. This mic right here that we're talking through, I could be in the data center and you could be right there and that person would not hear me. I would need to talk through an earphone. And just to paint you a visual picture, all these tables right here, those tables would rack about the size of the scanner that you come in through. Those will hold about anywhere between 10 to 25 servers, depending on the size of the server. I run servers in my house. I have 4 servers stacked this high. It heats up my entire room. I run it through the winter time, so I know the power consumption of it. And that's just a drop in the bucket compared to what's gonna run at that data center and the noise and everything that goes along with it. And I'm an IT professional, like I said. I would welcome a job, but not at this expense. Thank you.
Again, my name is Ann Fields, 329 Chase Marion Way, McDonough, Georgia. Again, I'm going to ask the board, who's bringing in the fiber? Who is bringing in the fiber? Where is the fiber in relation to these buildings right now? Where is it? Because you need to bring fiber in from a company to power this stuff. Where's the fiber? You didn't broach it, and I handed you that on a silver platter. This is what I do. I'm in IT. I've been installing fiber data circuits to airports for over 15 years. I get charged construction fees to run 3/4 of a mile. They want 10, 15, 20 grand. I know all about this, just like he does. He is also a knowledgeable IT professional. And yeah, my US Airways had a data server in our IT building. When you walk through the data center to shortcut through the building, you couldn't hear yourself think. And that was just for one company, my servers. So I'm gonna ask again, who's fiber lighting this place? Where's the fiber now? How much utility construction are we looking at? Who else is coming? Comcast, Lumen, AT&T, Verizon. Who's coming to fiber light the building? Because they want to have instant connectivity. All the carriers do. If I order a Verizon circuit into Virginia, Ashburn, Equinix facility, I'm lit in a week. That is what that means. If I need a 1 gig in Ashburn or a 10 gig in Ashburn, I'll have it in a week from certain providers that are fiber lit into the Ashburn Equinix. Now, this farm is Senator Brian Strickland's farm. His law partner, Andy Welsh, is the Henry County Authority Legal Counsel. The rich keep getting richer at the backs of the Henry County residents. And I do also want to point out that a quick Google search from everyone in the room reveals that air-cooled are much louder than water-cooled, 75 to 95 decibels average. So how are we going to reduce the output of that volume down to 60 if the average is 75 on a low scale, 95 decibels on a high scale? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our time. At this point, does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant?
I do for the applicant.
Okay, the applicant, please come forward.
So in terms of this technology for air-cooled, this will be the first of its kind?
So we'll be using known components, but assembled in first-of-its-kind technology, yes. We have tested it in a facility, like I said, in another part of the country. But they're right, there is noise. And the noise will be managed through how we design the building and how we design the building the most efficiently. This is why we've taken on a new technology and a new way to construct that technology, because we want to make sure that we're respecting that noise, that we're meeting the noise threshold. Inside of the buildings, the gentleman's absolutely correct, inside the buildings can be absolutely noisy. And so we're trying to maintain safety and design with managing how we design our mechanical or electrical components to make sure that they're at a decibel level that doesn't allow hearing loss or doesn't push that.
Can I ask another question? In looking at this site plan, the substation that you've got, is there any thoughts of putting it farther away from that subdivision that is right across from it?
We've looked at a couple of different options for the substation, and talking with Central Georgia EMC, just from a utility routing standpoint, that'd be the best location from it. I believe I can't see the numbers on the exhibit, but we're somewhere around 680, 700 feet, I think, from the nearest residence.
And for this substation, will there be power lines coming off of the main grid that's running along that particular area?
Yes, I believe they would be running overhead power to the substation, but all the power on site will be underground. I don't know that current routing right now. It's still under study.
Is there any thought of, in this particular location, not having two facilities, data centers, just one? So that it's more contained in the middle of the property instead of so close to the residential areas?
Help me out. I want to understand your question. I don't see where the buildings themselves are directly adjacent to the residents to the north or south. I mean, we have placed the buildings in the middle to be the furthest away from any residential property surrounding us.
So it's the substation that I'm really questioning, so close to that subdivision. If both of the, or one of the larger data center was put more north and the substation was moved over so that it's just not so close to that particular community.
There's some existing cultural resources on site that we are being sensitive to and trying to stay away from. So that is, that's part of the reason that we place the buildings where we are to avoid wetland impacts and preserve the natural environment on site.
Thank you.
Mr. Richard.
And how many people will be working in this facility?
65.
I think you said 25?
65 on this site, 25 on the other
65
one.
on this one?
Sorry about that. I didn't.
Ms. Walker.
I have two questions. One, is there going to be contractors, there's 65, or is there 65 and more people?
That's 65 direct employees, as this building will need facilities maintenance and mechanical, electrical support from local businesses. That will be.
So will some of the space be contracted to other companies?
No, it's a single tenant, single end user.
Okay. And I just have a problem with you putting so much in so closely, because that's really Simpson Mill and Walker Road. There's a subdivision right there. There's a Simpson subdivision. So it's right there. Yes, and you know, I think there's probably some more areas that, because if you haven't purchased this land yet, how do you know you even would get that land? There's got to be some kind of commitment that you know that you're going to get this land, because why would we be planning for this land?
The property's under contract.
It just hasn't been finalized.
Okay.
So we are not the legal owners yet.
Any additional questions?
To address why we chose the two
No,
parcels.
I'm sorry, I can't allow you any more time.
Oh, got it.
because your time has expired.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one additional question. I'm looking at this, but I can't really see it. What buffer zone will be established if this is approved, right, between this data center and the nearby residential area to assist reduction of noise and additional visual impact?
According to this site plan, it was brought up that this is between the substation and the nearest home. That is 690 feet. I don't have the numbers for some of the other aspects of the site plan.
That's the closest element to.
Yeah.
That's the closest element to the residential.
Okay. And what about you said the road's gonna be widened, through Splost.
I'm sorry.
How are you gonna conceal yes, Kent, I'm sorry, the visibility of the data center if it's actually approved?
Excellent question. One of the conditions staff has recommended takes into consideration that road widening. In speaking with the SPOS department, it is, because design has not yet been conducted for that widening, I was provided with sort of an estimate of that necessary right-of-way to accommodate that widening. Our staff recommended condition is, I believe, 70 feet from the, let me get the exact language here. That language under condition 6, developer shall dedicate at least 75 feet along the right-of-way for Hampton Locust Grove Road. I'm sorry, condition 5 there. And so with that, we would request that any buffers be outside of that planned right-of-way.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, Mr. Richards? No. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? You may be seated.
Thank you, Board.
Okay. If there's no further questions, we would like to call the case.
COMPAM 2406 Strickland Road Farms LLC of McDonough, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located on Strickland Road, east of Simpson Mill Road and north of Walker Drive, in land lots 239, 240, 241, and 242 of the 3rd District, and 241 and 242 of the 6th District. The property consists of 249.8 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from low-density suburban to office institutional. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 3.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes. I make a motion to deny comprehensive amendment 2406.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, motion failed due to...
Can we clarify that again? You're moving to deny the request?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Based on the proximity of the other data center as well, right?
So I'll second.
Pardon me?
I'll second.
Okay,
I'm trying to figure out, so it's a denial, and so a vote on that would then deny this particular motion, or this particular request.
That's correct.
Okay. And if we do not vote on this motion, then we go back to the original motion?
Well, that is the motion. We would then ask for another motion. The motion would fail due to the lack of a second.
Okay.
And the motion currently on the floor is one of denial.
Yes.
Yes. Motion,
I'm trying to determine, on this particular situation, I have to abstain, but if we want to have a vote on it, then we need a second.
that's correct.
I have a question, but if we don't vote on it at all, isn't that the same as a denial? Or I'm just, I just want to be so
If
clear.
I don't receive a second on this motion, the motion will fail due to lack of second. And we will ask for a second motion.
And may I remind the board that the motions available to the board is one of approval with conditions, denial, or potentially to table the request.
At this point, if I don't have a second, motion fails. Can I get a motion on,
We would need an alternate motion for the comprehensive plan amendment.
excuse me?
We would need another motion made for
Yes.
that comp plan amendment.
For comp plan?
So with that failure of a denial, the options available to the board.
For a motion of approval.
Approval with conditions, or to table.
Exactly. So on comp plan 2406, can I get a motion?
I'll do a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Need a motion to, board, I need a motion.
We could table.
Okay, you have a motion to, okay, that motion has failed. I need a motion to table.
Can I ask a question? Staff, is there another option between approve and deny? I know the commissioners.
You have a motion to table.
Have this slated for next Tuesday.
This case is actually decided by the Board of Commissioners, and the zoning advisory board is a recommending party. If a motion for a second is not made, then the motion fails as a denial, recommendation of a denial, and moves on to the Board of Commissioners for final decision.
Thank you.
So we've made a motion for the comprehensive plan. We did not receive a second, so it's failed. We
It's
also
failed.
made a motion for the rezoning, which did not receive.
No, we haven't read rezoning.
Okay.
Okay. So comp plan AM 2406 fails.
Yes, sir.
The motion for that, correct.
The motion. Can I get a motion for RZ 2420?
Make a motion to deny RZ 20.
I'm sorry, can I get a reading of RZ 2420?
But before we move on to that, there is still no motion made for the comprehensive plan amendment. So with a motion to deny failed, a motion to approve failed, the only option would be for a tabling. That is the third option available.
Point of clarification. So, but you had said if we do not make a motion, it still moves on to the commission.
Yes, because this isn't the final decision.
Right.
So we don't need to table it, because if we table it, then can they take it up?
Well, if you table it, it has to come back to this board, and it's likely that we're going to end up in the same situation. But seeing as you're not the approving, you don't make the final decision. If it fails to gain a second, then it fails, and it moves on to the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. Can I get a reading for RZ, excuse me, Mr. Richard?
Yes, it is.
Excuse me, Mr. Richard. I'm requesting a reading for RZ 2420.
RZ 2420 Strickland Road Farms LLC of McDonough, Georgia, request a rezoning request from RA Residential Agricultural to OI Office Institutional for property located on Strickland Road, east of Simpson Mill Road and north of Walker Drive in land lots 239, 240, 241, and 242 of the 3rd District and 241 and 242 of the 6th District. The property consists of 249.8 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a data center. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 3.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to deny RZ 2420.
Okay, I have a motion to deny RZ 2420. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I go on record? I abstained from that vote.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to go on record that I was abstaining from that last vote.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our cases for tonight. Do we have any announcements?
One quick announcement. The next zoning advisory board meeting is January 9th, 2025.
Thank you. This meeting is now adjourned. Woo.